Welcome to a podcast, our first ever, which we're calling Navigating Your 20's. We are the college young adult ministry at Crossroads Church. We're so excited that you are on the journey with us. My name is Steve, and I get to serve as the host today, also the young adult pastor here, and I'm joined with some amazing people that are on our team. To my left, we have Jamie DeMagno. Jamie is our graphic designer here at Crossroads. She is amazing, and why don't you tell them a little bit about who you are?
Oh man, I hate this question because I never know what to say. Yes, I'm a graphic designer here at Crossroads, and I actually started serving. The reason I feel like I'm working at Crossroads is because of Sia. Because I started serving at Sia for social media, which is something that I still do. But that really set the trajectory for me to find community and get plugged in and eventually get a job here.
Wow.
I love that. And now, how long have you been on staff here?
This will be my 7th year.
Wow.
On staff. Yeah.
That's a huge praise.
That is amazing.
That's crazy.
Next to Jamie, we have Maddie Pack.
Hey guys, my name is Madeline, if I haven't gotten to meet you already, and I've been coming to Sia since I graduated high school, so I would say like about a year now.
Come on now.
I really do love this place. I've always come to Crossroads, but I think I recommitted my life to Christ and got rebaptized when I graduated high school, and then I started coming to Sia, and it was just amazing, like getting to know other young adults who also want to pursue Jesus and also understand where you're coming from. Like being a young adult it was just so cool. So I love Sia, I love being here, and I serve on Connections. I'm in the welcome team, so I get to talk to everyone who feels like it's their first time, which I definitely can relate to, trust me. So yeah, that's where I find myself serving, and I absolutely love it.
I love that, and I think that team is the perfect place for you.
Oh, thanks.
You're amazing. And then next to her, we have Damian Beltran.
Yeah, name's Damien. Been coming to Sia for about, I think, 5 years now.
Wow.
Which is crazy to say. When I graduated high school, I was kind of navigating which church to go to, and Crossroads was always a home for me. So I came back to Crossroads, got plugged in with Sia, and haven't looked back since. Met my wife here, met all my longtime friends here, and absolutely love this place.
Wow.
And it has fueled so much of my life coming here, being a part of this church and being a part of this ministry. So super grateful.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And really today, our goal is to talk about all kinds of different things. We're going to talk about friendships. We'll talk about faith. We'll talk about finances. Talk about relationships and wherever the conversation goes. But Damien, I want to go back to you for a second because at the time of this recording, you preached a week ago, this Thursday, for the first time ever.
Yeah.
And you preached in Habakkuk chapter 3. Tell us a little bit about that experience that you had. What was it like?
Dude, honestly, it was awesome. Thank you so much for allowing me. I remember when you first came to me with Habakkuk, I was like, what? Oh my goodness, that's a minor prophet. I don't know if I feel qualified to do this, but the Lord was so good, and he brought me to a beautiful message that he really wanted me to share. And honestly, it was an amazing night. I truly am so blessed by this ministry so much. I feel like the Lord was just I was just like a speakerphone for the Lord. I was a little nervous beforehand, but once I got on stage, all of it just left.
Wow!
And I just started going, and the Lord just started speaking through me. And so,
was it your first time?
Yeah, it was my first time.
You did so good. Oh my, you didn't even look nervous at all.
Natural.
Yeah, seriously.
That was so good. I got to hear what was like the prep leading up to it. Like, did you do anything like beforehand? I don't know.
Yeah, so I got a text from Jess and Daisy on a Thursday night, like a month before. And they were like, hey, we would love if you would preach on May 30th. And I was like, oh my goodness. Sure, like absolutely. Yeah. And they were like, and then like about 2 weeks later, you guys were like, it's Habakkuk. And I was like, oh my goodness.
They had 2 weeks?
It was 2 weeks later.
Oh, gotcha.
So I had about like 3 weeks to prepare. Yeah. And yeah, so the first thing I did was read Habakkuk, and sure enough, like I just saw like the reverence of Habakkuk right away.
Wow.
Where he says, Lord, I hear of your report and I fear. Immediately it was about reverence for the Lord. Yeah. And I truly felt like the Lord was telling me to talk about reverence. And so yeah, I formed my message kind of around that and honored the Lord, preached a little bit of the gospel, and another huge praise that happened on Thursday, which is incredible, and I'm still in awe. I'm still in shock.
Yeah.
Genuinely, I'm still in shock. I've been fasting and praying for my little sister to come to the Lord, and on Thursday night, during invitation, she walked forward.
Wow.
Oh my god.
And I was able to greet her at the front and give her a hug. And yeah, she met with our amazing DC team, and she told our amazing DC team, I want to get baptized.
Oh.
And yeah, sure enough, we took her up to the baptismal. We baptized her, and man, my family is just still in awe.
That is
and
so
it's
awesome.
Wow.
That's so
I'm
beautiful.
genuinely so grateful that the
Wow.
Lord spoke to her.
Yeah.
And
Dude,
yeah.
that is amazing.
Yeah.
He preached, gave the invitation, so essentially it was the Lord leading his sister, but
Yeah.
you got to be the mouthpiece.
Yeah.
And then you got to baptize her.
Yeah, incredible.
All in the same night. Now, how long were you praying and fasting for her?
Oh man, I mean, these past 4 years.
Wow.
These past 4 years, my beautiful wife Adeline, she fasted for my little sister too, and so it was kind of both of our prayers being answered,
Wow.
and it was a huge moment for us.
Wow.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm so happy for my sister. I mean,
Yeah.
I look back on it now, and some of the things that I brought up in my sermon about, just personal things, she was able to relate to because, she lived in my home for my
Yeah.
whole life. And so when I was talking about my dad pulling in the driveway, she can imagine the driveway that my dad's pulling into, and she was out there playing with me. So, she could remind herself, oh yeah, I do remember hearing my dad's voice. And so
Yeah.
it was really, really special that she could relate to me on such a deeper level.
Yeah.
And I think the Lord used that to get her. To
That's
come forward.
awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah.
That's cool. I love that you were fasting and praying for 4 years, because I think what happens oftentimes is we pray and we ask God to move, and then we kind of give up after not seeing him move. But you're a picture, I guess, in essence, of that the Lord does listen.
Yeah.
He is very much hearing all of your prayers, all of our cries. He's very much in the details, as that night was just a showcase of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
It was awesome.
Let's talk through. You shared something in the message. You quoted one of my guys. You quoted Dave Ramsey.
Yep.
And if you don't know who Dave Ramsey is just a financial guru. I don't even know.
Our financial dad, really.
Yeah, a financial dad to many of us. So actually, fun fact, or I guess funny story. So when Jess and I, my wife, when we started dating, one of the first. When we were dating, she had these envelopes, because Dave Ramsey did this thing called the envelope system, where you put all the money, cash, into envelopes so you don't overspend. And I'll never forget, we went to Chick-fil-A one day, and she was pulling out her envelope trying to get her restaurant fund out, or whatever it was, labeled, and I noticed that there was a blessings envelope, and I was like, wow, like that's super cool. And I knew that's the girl I want to be with. She's amazing.
So
She's
cool.
got an envelope, and I come to find out that the blessings envelope had more money in it than the one that she had for herself.
Wow.
And
Yep.
I was like, wow.
That's
So
That's a
you find
woman
it,
right
yep.
there.
that was
That is a
amazing.
woman.
So then she was like all about Dave Ramsey, talking about Dave Ramsey, and he's very big on like getting out of debt. And we're gonna talk about finances in just a
let's
second.
get into it.
Because as 20s, navigating your 20s, we gotta talk about that for
Yeah,
sure. But I wasn't. She was like, you should really follow Dave Ramsey, and I wasn't sold until I looked at his net worth, and I was kind of like, I don't know if I really want to follow this guy. And then I looked at his net worth, and what sold me was, at the time, Wikipedia. I don't even know. Like Google said he was worth like $55 million.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna follow what that guy says, because that's a lot more money than I have. So
Yeah.
that's what kind of got me onto this Dave Ramsey, following his way of living, I guess. as a financial father, like you said.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But you mentioned him because he has a famous quote.
Yeah.
And what's that quote?
Yeah, he says, and it sums up our finances as Christians, but he says, save like no one else so that one day you could give like no one else.
I love that.
And I absolutely love that because, I mean, you really grasped the importance of your finances and why it is so important to
Yeah.
get into a good career, save, work hard, work on to the Lord, give your tithes. It's all in direction towards Him.
Yeah.
And that's why I really love Dave Ramsey because he is Christian. And he really does follow biblical rules when it comes to finances.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I love that.
I love how our church, like the main service, how they're talking about finances too.
Yeah.
Because it never came to mind, like, oh, there are, biblical teachings on on finances in the Bible. That's never crossed my mind. So at first when the church was doing it, I was like, oh, this is new. Like, let's go and like check it out, And then obviously I would, go after church, go out to eat with my friends or family members or my boyfriend, something, whatever. And I would talk about it, obviously, like, oh, what'd you do today? I went to church. And I started sharing these things. And they're like, oh, like, that they talk about the stuff in the Bible. I'm like, yeah, I guess they do. Like, and it's so cool. And they're like, oh, that's cool. Maybe I should go check it out sometimes. Because I feel like everyone just needs advice and help on their finances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether you're
Sure.
19 like me or 50 and you have a bunch of kids, like I feel like finances is such a big issue.
Yeah.
And it's like the importance of like literally the Bible, God's word is all that you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can find all your wisdom from that. So that is something that I experience like with with just talking about finances in general. I think it's super cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very much big on financial freedom. That's something my wife and I we really try to be diligent. And how we see it is it's a stewardship thing when it comes to our finances, and we don't want to spend more money than we have, and we want to set up our family well financially.
Yeah.
And
living
so
within your means,
Yeah, exactly. And so I feel like I'm a big advocate, but I don't think it was until my wife told me about Financial Peace University, and then at the time I had student loans. I was able to pay that off, and now.
So what did you learn from Financial Peace University? You said you took that
So
course.
I actually, fun fact, I didn't take it.
Oh, gotcha.
My wife took it. I just, what she learned
Learn from her.
I took, and then I just kind of went into like this whole, I follow Dave or I would like go on Dave Ramsey's page. I would go on there, like see what they're all about. And then he's always posting like tidbits about finances. And so so I pretty much what she already learned in the class, I kind of just took, and then we follow the he calls them baby steps, and we follow those baby steps. Yeah. But I think finances are a huge part of our young adult years, because a lot of times, one, we're trying to find a job. I think about so many people who are just in transition trying to figure out where they're going to land a job. Some are in jobs they don't really like, waiting for their career job to open up. Others are in college and universities trying to figure out, what am I going to do with my life? And at the end of the day, it's important. And you mentioned this in your message actually too, like, why do you care about the money you're making? And it's not bad to make a lot of money, and it's not bad to have a great financial standing or a great job, but why are you doing it? Is it really to advance the kingdom forward? And I think that's why this conversation is important.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What are some mistakes that you see our age group make when it comes to finances?
Oh man.
I think the number one thing is spending it all on food.
Food.
Because college students, high school students, when we get our first paycheck, we just go get fast food. Because we all, hang out at, Chick-fil-A, In-N-Out, BJ's, or whatever, and we just spend it on food. I think that's the biggest mistake, because something that my boyfriend and I are trying to implement now is, instead of spending all our money on going out to eat and stuff, why don't we just cook from home? Because not only are you eating healthier, it saves you money, and you learn how to cook. Like, hello, and it's fun too. So I think that's something.
Yeah.
That's good. What about you, Jamie?
What do you think?
I think something is not tithing.
Oh.
That was a big one. I think there's a lot of people struggle with, and it's one of those things that you kind of have to do in order to understand.
That's so true.
Because I remember I had quit one of my jobs, and I was like, it's time for me to find a career job and not just like a job to get money.
Yeah.
So I quit my job so that I could focus on trying to find like one of those career jobs for graphic design specifically. But one of the things that I knew that I needed to do is like, no matter what, even if I don't have a job, like I'm still gonna tithe on anything, like any gifts, like monetary gifts or anything that I get, because I know like God's gonna provide for me. And so the whole time, I think I didn't have a job for like a whole year, but I was never like without funds, because God just like makes it happen for you.
Amen.
That's so
like
true.
money just like comes from randomest
Nowhere,
places.
literally.
Yeah, no, for
So
real.
and that was around the time too I was paying off student loans. I never missed a payment for my student loans, just because
Praise
God.
God.
Amazing.
Good,
That's amazing.
because I think I made that commitment and He honored that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's huge.
No, I want to add on to that because I love when you said you don't understand it until you do it.
Yeah.
Like, that is so true. I mean, one, like, as believers, we're called to be faithful to what we have, what God has given us, and that means tithing, you know? And I remember my first time tithing ever. It was when I started coming to SIA, and I had, you know, I was working at Corona Life Services, now Zoe, and I was doing digital marketing too, so we can relate on that. But I remember I was like, you know what? Why don't I tithe? They just hit me like, oh my gosh, I'm not tithing. Obviously, it was conviction from the Lord. And I was like, okay, I'm going to tithe for the first time. And so obviously I wasn't making much. I just had graduated high school. I'm working part-time. And then I remember, I think I put in, it was cash because I just wanted to like pray over it. So I, you know, got the money out of the bank, put it in an envelope, prayed over it, and then, you know, put it in the box. And the next day I go back to work, and Jordan, who was my boss at the time, she came up to me and she was like, hey, like, you know, I was just wanting to ask you if you were open to like working more hours or things, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, yeah, like I would be.
Wow.
But literally the way that the Lord shows up when you're obedient,
It's amazing.
all He wants is your yes, and He will provide.
Yeah.
And that was my first time tithing. And just in my first trust in terms of just like money with Him, He was like, let me provide for you. And He allowed me to work more hours. And then I could give more to Him, which is such a blessing. So that is so true. Like, you do.
Yeah.
I feel like tithing with your money, it's like, you get to know God's heart more
Yeah.
and how much He really loves and provides for you, you know? Especially when you're without money in your own situation, or when you're in college and you're broke and you have a bunch of student loans, like, to still be obedient. Like, God is a God of justice. He's not gonna not care about you. You know what I mean? So I love that you share that.
That's good. Yeah. And I say this often, but it's like, I think a lot of people think like, oh, it's going to get easier once I have a higher paying job, once I'm more established in my career. But the thing is, you're making more money, chances are. So you're going to have a harder time giving when it's more money.
It's not $40 anymore.
Yeah. And so it's like that if we can't do it now,
Yeah.
we're going to have a harder time.
Yep.
And so I think for me, this is something I was thinking about the other morning, actually, so random, but I was just thinking about like back to the first time I ever gave. And I remember thinking like, wow, it was a lot. And it took a lot. And I think God genuinely does honor that. And the beauty that comes from it. Like we're not giving just to get.
No.
And I think that's, you know, we all know that. But when we do give, when we're obedient, God honors obedience. He honors faithfulness.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, and I think it's also just a reflection of your heart. Like if it's difficult for you to give, which I think a lot of people experience, and no shame to that at all. But what is that saying about your heart in terms of how much you trust the Lord, right? And as Christians, like we want to live lives that are glorifying to God. And if we're so attached to this money, why are we so attached to this money and not so reliant on the Lord? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
And the scripture says, I love quoting it, every good and perfect gift
It's from above.
is from above.
That's so good.
And that's it. And you know what? We're saying, all right, Lord, I'm just a steward of this.
Yeah.
And look at we give to God through the local church, and look at what He gets to do. Like you were literally just in Mexico the other day building a house,
Oh my God.
My goodness.
and you just sit back and you're just in awe of there are people that we may never meet on this side of heaven.
Yes.
Yet we got to play a small part,
Yeah.
and God allowed us to do that, which is the fact that God allows us to because I want to talk about church for a second, because
Okay.
this is another thing. Like the fact that God allows us to serve his people, to love on his people. Like he could literally use anybody,
Yes.
but he uses us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we could also be living in another country where we can't do that. We could be living in another country where it's illegal to own the Bible. You can get killed if you're a Christian. Like that's a reality for so many people in this world. So the fact that we get to gather as a church, the fact that we have a Bible, the fact that we get to listen to his word in public is a blessing, because people will literally risk their lives just to know and hear the word of Jesus. you know?
Yeah.
Yep.
But I want to hear more about your missions trip. Like, what was that like for you?
Oh my goodness, it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I can't stop thinking about it.
Wow.
I can't stop thinking about the family that we blessed. It was a single mom with 4 kids
Wow.
who left everything in her old town, traveled 5 days with her kids, left an abusive relationship of, her husband. And she's a hard worker, very hard worker. And she laid it all down for her children.
Wow.
And when we arrived, she just had a little shack with the tarp that she was living in and her 4 kids were living in. And it broke my heart when I got on the site, and just seeing the hope in her eyes when we got onto the site. Just that concrete slab with nothing on it yet, but we continue to build this house. And bro, I didn't know that we were going to do it in 2 days. Like, it's crazy.
No,
we
it's
usually
crazy.
do it in
It's so crazy.
they usually take like 2 or 3 days to build it.
Wow.
We built it in a day and a half, which was insane.
How many people were on your team?
There's 26 people, so
Wow.
it kind of
Okay,
made it
that's
easier. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was an incredible experience. I mean, just seeing like the mom at the end when we gave her the keys, just break down and crying, just in awe of God.
Yeah.
She has spent countless nights praying to the Lord for a house, and the Lord inclined His ear to her, and
Yeah.
he heard the mom's prayers.
Yeah.
And one of the people that was on our team, his name's Marco. He got to minister to one of the sons, and he actually led him to Christ.
Wow.
That's so amazing.
Yeah, so that trip was amazing. Missions of Hope, that organization is amazing. They do so much good work, and I'm so glad that we partner as a church with them because they're amazing.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Let's talk friendships.
Yes.
Navigating. We're talking all about navigating your 20s. By the way, these transitions that I'm going with are like super smooth, right?
Super.
We'll get the hang of it.
Love
I
it.
feel like something that I learned about friendships this year was actually through my crew. And there's these 4 girls that I know, or who obviously I know they're in my crew, but they really started hanging out like outside of our normal meeting days, and they just got super close, and it was cool to just get a front row seat to that. And so they inspired me to make like an acronym of just like how to build
That's
like and maintain just those like godly friendships. And so the acronym is BAM.
Ooh.
okay.
Okay.
Get
Let's
your
not
notepads out.
BAM.
Get your
Okay, I
notepads
have
out.
to pull up
BAM.
my notes because I'll ramble if I don't, and I want it to be like
Oh no,
concise and clear.
we want to hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, so the B stands for believe that God wants this for you. Because I feel like a lot of times when you struggle finding or like connecting with people, you can think like, oh, well, maybe I'm just like not cut out for it. But God's literally in community with Himself,
Yeah.
like the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
That's
And
cool,
so, because we're made in His image, of course, like we're also gonna have the desire to be in community. So, I think like when you believe that. That's part of God's will for your life, it can make all the difference because it can like switch your perspective to maybe see opportunities for a friendship where you might have been like closed off. So that's B.
B.
A is for ask God, because one of my favorite scriptures is James 4:2. You don't have what you want because you don't ask God for it. And so, yeah, like He loves to meet our needs and our desires, and like what you said before, like all every good and perfect gift is from God. So just to ask the Lord for it. And I think it's also sweet, like I don't know about you guys, but I like to write down my prayers. And so if that's like something that you desire, just to like write down like God, like it's June 4th 2024, and like I really want friendships, like godly friendships, and then like to be able to go back and put like the date of like when God answered it.
That's
It's
so cool.
sweet. And then so yeah, that's A. And then M stands for make yourself available.
That's good.
As
is
an
good, yeah.
introvert, I know like me and Daisy can relate to this too, but we love to like, or I don't know about all introverts, but for me, like I love to make plans until it's like the day of the plans.
You're like,
And then, and then I'm like, I don't know if I want to go to the plan that I made.
It was sounding good in the moment.
Yeah, so just like making yourself available, also having wisdom too, like don't like overload yourself. But that goes also beyond like the initial like hangouts. Like make yourself available to rejoice with them when they rejoice and weep with them when they weep. And just like
That's good.
even if you're I know like a lot of the times it's hard to like rejoice with someone when they're and they're living in an answered prayer that you're still like waiting on. But I think like being like making yourself available to show up in those moments, and it really like forges a different type of friendship. So yeah, that's
So good, Jamie.
inspired
That's
by my
so
life
good.
group.
That's
I mean,
very good.
not my
Man.
life group, my group.
It's all good.
Yeah, we're taking the life out.
That is awesome. Did you make that into like a graphic?
No,
Ben?
but I
You
will.
should.
I'll post it.
Yes,
no,
I'll
Bam.
post
you
that.
definitely should. You definitely
Yeah.
should.
I love that acronym.
That's so
But yeah,
important.
and it's just cute because their initials are BAMM.
What?
And
That
so I got
is-
it from them.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
That is so important.
That's so creative. That's awesome.
That is creative. You're one of the most creative people I know.
No, seriously.
Even with acronyms, like
Yep.
I think cultivating friendships in your 20s is very difficult. It takes such intentionality. I feel like the transition from like part-time work or being in school to then working full-time, you're like, where did all my time go?
Yeah.
Because you're not working somewhere 40 hours plus sometimes, and now it takes a lot of time or now you're having to be diligent with your time to say like, I'm going to say yes to this or I'm going to say no to that so that I could invest in these friendships. And that's not my strongest suit. I feel like for me, I'm not the best at. I want to make plans. I have good intentions to make plans, but then I'm like sitting on my couch and I'm like, do I really want to make plans right now? I'm kind of like tired after a long week, but you're right. Like, how do I expect to have friendships, like great godly friendships, if I'm not putting time, energy, effort, intentionality into it? Because it's different when you're not working full time. You have more time on your hands. You see those people perhaps often. So I think for me that was like a hard, I don't even know, like a transition
Yes.
with friendships. And I have so many amazing friendships. We all do. But I think if I could share a piece of wisdom, it would be like invest and not just wait for friendships to come your way. But and your acronym reminds me of that, where it's like there's times where you're like, I made the plans, but I don't really want to go.
Yeah.
And you gotta like have to fight through that sometimes to be like, wow, I'm so glad I did that. Because then afterwards you're super encouraged and you're like, wow, or I was able to weep with them, or more like the scripture talks about. That's been my journey when it comes to friendships in my 20s. I'm almost out of my 20s now, about to be 30 soon. And
You're gonna be 30?
I'm about to be 30. It's kind of crazy. And I think I didn't realize that though because in my early 20s, it was like easy. There was proximity and you're not working all the time. And then you get married and you're married. And then you've been married for how long now?
A year.
A year.
A
Wow.
year and 1 month. Yeah.
You just said, that's cool. And then you get married and then you have a kid. So it just takes more planning, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I feel like friendships is such an important topic to talk about, especially for navigating your 20s. I mean, I'm 19, not 20 yet. But, I mean, there's such a drastic change. Obviously, graduating high school, entering young adulthood. You're not surrounded by friends all the time. And you're so right about being intentional with who you want to be friends with. And I think something that sometimes stops young adults and even, like, me at times from investing in friendships is, like, the overthinking of, like, oh, well, I love to hang out with this person. And this person is so cool, but like, what if they don't think I'm as cool, or like, why don't they want to hang out? Is it because they don't think it's as important to them?
Yeah.
And then you get into that overthinking of like, okay, well, maybe they don't value the friendship as much as I do. And then should I even like text them all the time? And then like that's when it gets difficult. But yeah. So what do you think is your take on that question of like how to navigate how much time you should invest into a friendship and what kind of friendships? Things like that.
I've definitely seen it. Hanging out with friends has shifted since I've gotten married. It has to be in constant communication with my spouse. And we do leave room in our schedule to go hang out with our friends. Like this weekend, we're going to hang out with friends. And, we don't have like a set way on how we're going to hang out with our friends. We don't have to hang out with our friends together. We can hang out with our friends separately. There's so much beauty to communicating in marriage, and I know all even aren't married, but it's like there's
so cute though. I love hearing about it.
It's hard to relate to, but once you get in a serious relationship, you start to realize, oh yeah, I should communicate what exactly I want to do with my time, and even navigating your own time and being mature with your own time, taking care of responsibilities. We're in school, we're in work, taking care of our work in school, and making sure that we're good with that. Because I know when I first, started coming to the church, I would put school on the back burner, and I would just, my friends are going to go hang out, I'm going to go hang out. Dude, my grades started slipping. I started like getting in this place where I was just anxious all the time because I wasn't taking care of my responsibilities. And I believe it's very important to take care of your responsibilities and then go and make some time for your friendships because they are very important as these young navigating years. But I absolutely love my friends. I feel like I've gotten in a really good place where I have organic friendships where me and my friends, we talk about like Call of Duty.
I love that.
Yeah, we go to like Call of Duty events and stuff. And I would have never thought that I would have found friends like that here at the church who love video games, who love sports as much as I do. But you're just I'm just amazed at what God can provide for you when you ask for it. I asked the Lord, I would really like some friends that have my interest. And sure enough, he brought two amazing guys who literally follow Call of Duty like I do. And
awesome.
which is such a weird thing and such a nerdy thing, but it's really, really cool because God heard my prayer.
He's in the details.
He's in all the details. And I really, really do love that. That 3-word analogy of BAM, because you really do have to make yourself available and go out and make that time for people. Because everybody's busy.
Dude, so I had a thought. And I forgot the thought. No, friendships are very, like you mentioned, you have 3 friends. Or like,
oh man,
he has more than 3 friends. All right, but you have a few friends that you have like identical things in common with. Call of Duty, church. Let's talk. As what we did is we asked you guys on our Instagram. By the way, this microphone I think keeps going down.
You're gonna have to
and
start
so
sliding.
I might just start scooting down with the microphone a little bit. But what was?
Where we asked on Instagram.
Oh, yes, on Instagram. Questions that people have, and which is why we're talking about all of these different topics today. But some of the questions were about friendships, and so what do you look for in a friendship? I think is an important question to talk through.
For me, I looked for people who are on the same path as I am. Who have the same goals in mind, who love people genuinely, who love serving the church, who love God passionately. I feel like that was the foundation of it. And then people who are just really easy to hang around with, people that I can be myself around with. I don't have to try to act a certain way or do certain things to try to gain their approval. I can just be myself around them. And I feel like when you sense that with a person, it's like, oh man, I love this guy. I can be this guy's long life friend. And, you don't have to have thousands of friends, I sometimes get trapped in this thing where I'm like, man, I'm not like close to a bunch of people. And I think that's okay. And that's totally fine. I feel like the Lord blessed me with some great group of guys who love the Lord genuinely,
Yeah.
and who are there for me in times where I do go down, and I thank the Lord for them. But I do look for people who are strong in their faith, who are mature in their faith, who you don't have to know what you want to do with your career, but like kind of you're already walking and you have some goals set up and stuff. And not to say I'm not going to make you a friend if you're not doing those things, but just people that I let in on my stuff, my deepest,
Yeah, like I think of Jesus, right?
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of people. Yeah, and we hear this all the time, but he had a core group that he really invested in, that he spent his time with. I love that. What about you guys? What do you look for? Maybe just rattle off a few things that you look for in friendships.
I'm gonna you go first.
So mine's not as deep as Damien's, but I feel like because I'm older, I'm not in my 20s anymore, and so
Shout out Jamie DeMagno.
I feel like though there's people at SIA that are just like I feel like SIA covers like such a huge like decade of formative years in people's lives, but I think something that has always been like something that I look for is if I can laugh with you. I know it's not like super deep, but it just I feel like that's just like the funnest thing. Like when you can find someone who has the same humor as you, I think like it's easier to get to know them, and you naturally gravitate towards the people that have the same type of humor as you.
That's true.
So I feel like that's
good.
A lot of my friends is like we all have the same type of humor, but we're all different. Like different life stages, different careers, different interests. But like when you can laugh with someone, it's just different.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's something like I honestly never really thought about that. Like I know I want to laugh with my friends, absolutely, but that's not something like I could call out. But I love that you called that out, because that is really important. You don't want to be like you're all serious with each other, and you're like it's always like tense. And you're like
Trying to make a joke and like they don't get it.
Yeah.
It's like awkward.
Yeah, like your sense of humor has to be somewhat
the same.
similar. You have to get along with each other.
Such a good point. Yeah.
That's a great point.
I think in my friend group, I feel like I think I'm like decently funny, like to say, but I wouldn't say I'm like the funniest person ever. But I think, which is kind of different, like how you were saying, is like I don't think I'm the most goofiest person ever. I think sometimes I can be a little more like serious, but I get along with people who are really funny, because my friends like to make fun of me, and it's like I'm the laugher of the group, which is true. Like I laugh at everyone's joke. I'm not usually the one making the joke, but I think just kind of to build off like another trait that I look for in terms of friendship is, I mean, obviously, yes, like when you love the Lord and your faith is like authentic and you're like real about your love for Christ, but also like authenticity in general. I think I've also had such horrible friendships with fake people in my life. I just gravitate towards people where it's your first time meeting them and they are exactly the same person, like a year or 2 or 5 years down the road, they're the exact same person.
Yeah.
Like I have
Strong
a friend,
character.
Yes, and I also love people who are, I don't know. I get along with people who have like really big personalities and are super like loud and stuff. I don't know. I just get along with them too.
That's awesome.
But it's just people who like make me feel comfortable, and you can definitely be yourself around people who are just super like real and authentic. That's just like my kind of people.
That's cool. I feel like for me, how I gauge friendships, not always, but it's like if we were driving in a car, I feel like I know we've made it when like Damien and I are driving in the car, and it could be silent for a really long time and it's not awkward.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yes.
because like
That's
there's
huge.
some people you're like, dude, I got to talk the entire time. Otherwise they're like, well, what's gonna, it's just weird.
That's huge.
But I'm like, dude, if I could drive in the car
That's
and
actually
it's
so true.
quiet and not say a word,
You gotta
yet
love that.
like I don't have to worry. Like
Yeah.
we're good friends. And I
Yeah.
think if we're going on the same, like we all are in different stages of life. We all have different occupations. You for sure don't want me to be a graphic designer. I will be coming up with horrible graphics. Or you don't want me painting guitars in the work that you guys do. But I think so we're gonna have different occupations for sure, and different jobs, different interests at times, but also we have to have some commonalities. It can't just be like the only thing is Jesus, which is super important. That's what really brings us together. But like you're saying, sports, what can we talk about?
That's
like,
true.
Yeah.
it can't just be, I don't think it's just like one dimensional. It's like, let's talk sports. Let's talk, like for your Call of Duty, let's talk like just different things.
Yeah.
Where I know when you and I get together, we're talking sports, we're talking baseball a lot. We're
Yeah.
talking about like just our wives. We're just talking about life in general, where we could shoot the breeze about literally anything.
Yep.
But there's times where you're like, oh, I don't know if we're on the same page. And I think that's a good indicator of like, maybe you could be friends, but maybe that's not like the closest person, your closest friendship that you have.
Yeah.
And I value when people are genuine. And I think that's
Yes.
really important as well. You don't want to, you're not going to share someone like your life and what your struggles are, or what, and it's just like, I know I'm sharing this with you, but it's going to go to 75 other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if that's like if someone's talking to you about somebody else, they're going to be doing that to somebody else about you.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a good indication. That's wisdom. That's discernment to say like, okay, what can I share? And it doesn't mean you're fake. It just means like, I'm being careful for myself. I'm setting up boundaries.
Yeah.
Good.
Starting next week, we're going to be in a relationship series. We're recording this podcast because right now we're, as a ministry, outside for See a Summer Night. And those of you that are watching online, or perhaps you joined us for a summer night and you're coming back to this podcast, we hope that it blesses you. But we're going to be talking all about relationships. And I think you nailed it. There's a lot to relationships than just they love God. That has to be first and foremost, absolutely. But I think values are so important. Values that I'm for sure going to preach a message on this because I think it needs to be talked about all the time. But like values that we don't often talk about.
Yeah.
Because we're like, I don't know if we're there in our relationship yet. And it's like, no, we got to talk about politics. We have to talk about how we're going to raise kids. How many kids do we want? Those are all really important in relationships because I don't know like the statistics, but top reasons why people get divorced are finances, kids, like the raising of kids, politics. There's all these different things, and we want to make sure as Christians, like I said, when we get married, we're marrying that person, you know, and we made vows before them, before our family, before our friends, before the Lord.
Yeah.
And so those vows are meant to be taken seriously. We don't date like the world either, where it's like, you don't see, like dating is a preparation period to see, do I see myself with this person for life?
Yeah.
I'm honestly really excited for that series.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
I
good.
love
It's
that
gonna be
a common theme, just like the whole time we've been talking is, like if you're faithful in the little things, then like you'll be faithful in the big things too.
Yeah.
So we talked about that with like tithing or even just like friendships. Like you're only gonna get busier. So just to like be faithful in like the times when you're not busy, you're gonna still be that same person.
Yeah.
When you're busier, and then even just like for relationships too, like. Even if you're not like dating someone like me.
Yeah.
Oh.
You got
Someone's
it.
out
Keep
there.
going. I like where you're headed.
She's single.
Have you been hearing what she's been saying?
I'm not like.
Fellas.
Never mind. I'm done.
I was gonna say that.
Edit this out.
Sorry.
But yeah, so like just like you said, like even if you're not dating, it's a preparation period too, and like allowing your friends
Yeah,
to
that's
like
good.
speak into you, and like be the type of person who can be like open to correction when someone calls you out. Like,
That's
how
so
are you
good.
gonna react to that?
good.
Because like I think for me too, it's just like something that I've been praying for a long time, and I want to be ready for it. I don't want to mess it up because
Yep.
I didn't take the time before I got into a relationship to like prepare for it
Yep.
in like every way that I could. So
Yeah.
That's
I love that
so
you
good.
said, like,
So good.
Yeah.
I love that you really brought it together as like a main crux or a theme of today. It would be that being faithful in the little and seeing singleness as actually a blessing, as an opportunity to say like, I want to grow my relationship with God, but I'm preparing myself so that when God brings me my person, which by the way, church is an amazing place to meet friends and
Yes.
your significant other.
Yep.
By the way, Jess and I, we met serving in high school ministry. It was called Gen High at the time, I think it was called.
Gen High.
Yeah.
And that's where we met. And so, but you're right. It's not just like a time where you're like, I'm just single, I hate this. But it's like actually using it as an opportunity to say like, all right, Lord, teach me. Where do I need to change? Grow me in my relationship with you so that when the perfect person comes, the person that God wants you to be with, or, you know, that person that you have your eye on and they finally make their way over to you and you hit it off, it's like you're already prepared and you're not like, oh, I have to figure all these things out.
Yeah.
You could work on your struggles. You could have accountability in your life. Also, if you're single, be careful what the people around you are saying. Like if you're like interested in somebody and your people are like, I don't know about that. That's also a good indication. We'll talk about that obviously in our series, Flags. It's always important. But thank you for your wealth of wisdom, all of you guys. Thanks for joining us today. If you like this podcast, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You give it a thumbs up, thumbs up, and leave a comment. I want to know. We want to know. What are some questions that you may have that you want us to hit on next time when it comes to anything really navigating your 20s? We love you guys so much and look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.